My name is Jason Smith. I am the uh, Director of Business Services and Technology for Coal City Schools, and talking today about really some things to think about when your staff and students are accessing the internet. The hashtag that we'll be using today is Internet Safety, so as we tweet along today, you can certainly follow us on Twitter. And again, as Arlen said, feel free to put in your questions in the dialog box that's on your GoToWebinar control panel. Um, Obviously, the internet has become an integral tool for school districts today. Our teachers are using them in ways that they never have before, as well as our students. And so keeping them safe while they're browsing through our networks is something that's of, I think, particular importance. And the information that I want to walk through today is really intended for uh, administrators and school people to think about as they do their day-to-day kind of business related to school. But beyond that, to be able to transfer this to thinking about keeping our students safe when they're online, I think is something that will hopefully uh, it will be easy for you to translate. A lot of the resources I'm using today come from a website that you see at the bottom of the slide, which is the stopthinkconnect.org, which is a national website that has all sorts of resources that we'll look at toward the end of our discussion time this morning, that you can use in schools for, posters for the classroom or teaching resources that your staff can deliver to your students. So we'll go ahead and get started. You know, I want you to think about how much we rely on the internet today. Our student management systems are online, grades and attendance. We have a high degree of transparency expected from our parents and our community members. So as we have tried to keep up with the advancements in Web 2.0, Web 3.0 tools, sometimes school districts are at a disadvantage because they might be using older equipment. They might have limited access in terms of bandwidth to the internet. And a good example recently is just the Windows XP going to kind of an end-of-life state, where there are still many school districts in the state that are using Windows XP as a platform simply because financial reasons don't allow you to move to new equipment, new operating systems. And so with that come lots of new dangers that we haven't seen or haven't seen to the degree that we see today here in the last half decade to decade. So my focus today in our talk is really going to be thinking about things related to email safety, which fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, we in education still rely on email as probably the primary source of communication within the organization and also with our parents. We'll then talk about some web safety ideas so that when we're browsing on the internet, we can be aware of some of the dangers that are there today. For example, a lot of you have probably heard of the Heartbleed exploit that has been talked about a lot in the news lately. That is certainly something that does affect many school districts, many websites. And so we'll talk about why you want to pay attention to those kinds of things and botnet exploits and so on. We'll then talk a little bit about mobile safety. The handheld device and the smartphone is quickly becoming the primary tool that teachers and administrators are using to access information on the internet. It has certainly become the tool of choice for students and parents. And so we'll talk a little bit about what you should think about with respect to your mobile device. And then social media safety. If it's not become an issue in your district, it certainly will soon. As BYOD and one-to-one initiatives are taking off throughout the state, we are using social media to communicate with those constituents, the students, our staff members, and particularly our parents. And so there are a lot of things that we need to know or at least think about with respect to social media. And so that'll really be the focus of our talk this morning. I want to start with email because it's something that we all have used for a long time maybe, and we take for granted the fact that all the email that comes into our box is legitimate mail. And many of us have spam filters in place where we think that it's catching most of the junk mail that's flowing through our system. I know that I looked at my spam filter this morning, and on average in the last month, about 80% of all the mail that comes through my gateway is marked as spam, and so it never hits the inbox of my users. That being said, there are still those that get through. And I think what's important to talk with staff about, and further students once they become email active in your classrooms, is to think about these three bullets. Do I know the sender? Do I recognize the attachment? And is the request they're making something that I want to participate in? So obviously, if it's a sender that you don't recognize, we encourage you to disregard it or ignore the mail. Also, with respect to the attachments, a lot of times if we didn't ask for a file, we shouldn't expect that there would be a file attached to the email. And then the think before you click is simply, well, what happens if I open this attachment? And then finally, the request. We have all won the Ugandan lottery or some other sweepstakes out there on the internet, certainly, which that should kind of raise a flag for us as a reader. But requests these days are getting better and better, particularly requests that look as if they're coming from your bank or from PayPal or from a legitimate website that says, hey, your password's been compromised. Please confirm it here in this window, or go ahead and give me your credit card number because we're just doing a simple validity check for some sort of data. So we want users to be more sensitive to these three aspects of the email that's coming in and out of their inbox every single day.